Hey, everybody, I hope you're doing well today. Let's take a look at a phenomenon called crowding out and try to understand what it means in the economy. So, check this out. It's pretty interesting and debatable phenomenon that may happen when the economy is in a recession. So, let's check out the details. So, crowding out, a definition of it, this will help just to understand what on earth I'm talking about. It refers to the possible impacts on real GDP of increased government spending financed by borrowing. If increased government borrowing results in a higher rate of interest, this could reduce private investment spending, thus reversing the impact of the government's expansionary policies. What? What does that mean? Those are just a bunch of econ words. Yeah. So think of it this way: there is a recession, aggregate demand is down, and the government says, "Hey, we're going to do some demand side intervention here, and we're going to get involved in the economy, and we are going to borrow money, several billion dollars, to fund some sort of construction project of building roads throughout, some section of the country which is difficult to access." The government then goes to the marketplace and borrows $5 billion. Okay, that is increased demand on money. Now there's increased consumption demand on money. What happens to anything when there's increased demand for the product? Money is it's just a product, right? It is a increase in the price. Well, what's the price of money? The price of money is the interest rate. So if all of a sudden the government goes to the marketplace and demands $5 billion, the theory here is that it's going to push the price of money up, just like increased demand on any good or service will increase the price for it. So now all of a sudden the price of money has gone up, and what is that going to do for the private sector? Well, if interest rates are going up or go up as a result of increased demand for money because of government spending, then they're going to be less likely, the private firms, to actually borrow money. And if they don't want to borrow money, then they are going to decrease investment, which is going to decrease employment, which means that the government spending that was used to create jobs is going to be crowded out by the increase in unemployment in the private sector. Okay, so back to words. When governments run budget deficits in order to stimulate the economy and reduce unemployment, there is a potential problem known as crowding out. The government's demand for money drives up the price of money or the interest rate, and this crowds out the incentive for firms to borrow money for investment. So we have a situation where the government wished to increase aggregate demand, right, by increasing government spending, but the higher interest rate caused private investment to fall, thus reducing aggregate demand and crowding out the desired effect on aggregate demand and also the desired effect on unemployment. Okay, and you can show all of this through a look at two different graphs, right? If you look down here at the bottom, this is the quantity of loanable funds and the interest rate, and here is a market equilibrium point, right? And then all of a sudden the government got involved, and here was the price. Over here is the interest rate and the amount of investment. So this is a relationship between investment and interest rate. Obviously, as the price of interest, if interest rate goes up, the price of money goes up, right? Investment's going to go down. So the government was trying to solve a demand deficient situation, right? And so the government gets involved and they go into the loanable funds. This is the supply of money, and they demand $5 billion more dollars, let's say. And what happens? Well, obviously the price of money or loanable funds goes up. Well, what happens over here in the investment world? Well, if the interest rate goes up because of the increased demand for money by the government, then obviously private investment is going to drop as a result of the increased price of money or the increased interest rate. Okay, so these two graphs are pretty cool little thing to take a look at and understand, and you can use this somewhere in an evaluation portion of an answer. Okay, so crowding out is a pretty simple concept. It's got a cool name too, I think, crowding out, but it doesn't really tell you much, right? The government demands more money, which drives up the price of money, which is the interest rate, which results in a decrease in investment by private firms, thus crowding out the increase in aggregate demand and also the desired effect of increased in employment. And if you think about it this way, remember, aggregate demand equals, right, C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So the government, G is expanded, but the I has gone down, right, by the equal amount there. That's the theory. And therefore, there's no increase in actual aggregate demand. It gets crowded out. All right. Here's the deal. Is it for real or not? Whether or not crowding out does occur and the extent to which it might occur is subject to much debate in economics. And we're going to go back to the same lines. To simplify the argument, Keynesian economists say that it will not occur if the economy is producing at less than full employment. That makes sense. Neoclassicists who are opposed to the use of demand management policies argue that crowding out is a significant problem to increase government spending. So the two sides don't even agree. And the reason why the Keynes would say this has to do with the relationship between the demand curves, right? The Keynesian demand curve, as you know well, right, is flat and then goes up, whereas the neoclassical view, the short-run aggregate supply curve, is more at an angle like this, and therefore that affects the argument of whether or not this phenomenon of crowding out actually occurs. In any event, it's a cool idea, and I love debatable things, and it's got a cool name, and you're going to feel all good because you understand crowding out, and you understand that you can show it in a graph, which is also pretty cool. The relationship between the demand for money and the decrease in investment as a result of government spending. All right, my friends, I hope you found this video to be helpful. Talk to you in a bit.